the statistics of housing deficiency globally and even in Kaduna. And Kaduna, just like any rapidly urbanizing city, is faced with the disparity between spatial expansion and the provision of essential services like roads, sanitation, and so on. So the issue of slum upgrading is at the heart of the way cities expand. Slums represent about 70% of spatial expansion within cities. And so it's an important issue to address. And when I did my studies on slums 16 years ago, I saw that the vast majority of informal dwellers or slum dwellers are faced with economic challenges that they are not able to meet up with the standard requirements for buildings. They cannot even afford architects to design them. So when you look at the morphology of slums, you find that over 90% of the houses were not designed or built by architects. So it's a wake-up call and a responsibility for architects to streamline their services such that it is accessible and that it addresses the needs of the most vulnerable and those within the economic class that the profession seem not to capture. During my training in the School of Architecture, we were focusing on housing, but not for the poor. Not for the poor. So our services, just like products that have different hierarchy, you can go for the expensive one, you can go for the one that is affordable. So we need to have our services tailored to the most vulnerable and to the wealthy, as we so often do that. So the physical characteristics of slums is that it's typically a brown field. The brown field is a color coding that means that the earth is usually bare, stripped of vegetation, narrow corridors, and everything seems to be impervious or hard surfaces because of the way the informality grows, partly due to the land fragmentation and the way lots are sold. Typical classical planning interventions do not reach these slum conditions. And you also agree with me that the notion of slums is that there's inadequate housing, inadequate access to sanitation services, and so on. And most of our cities, though they are not slums in quotes, they do exhibit slum-like characteristics. And another important thing about slums is that though it is deficient in this physical and environmental characteristics, it is a hub of social assets. It is rich in social capital. People are more interconnected, people are more related to each other, and that's something that we find missing in our metropolitan cities, where there's a disconnect. Everybody is an island of his own. We've lost that sense of community, that sense of collaboration that makes communities come together and resolve issues that are of concern to them. So that is an issue that our modern cities also needs to inculcate. The soul of the city is the fabric of social interaction, and those things are produced when we have spaces that community meet, that people interact, that brings people together, that brings diversity in inclusive spaces. So another issue with slum upgrading is that it's not just an issue of providing these services. Because of the prolonged disenfranchisement, the prolonged economic pressure, slum people that live within slum have exhibited a mindset such that when some of these services are provided, they are not properly maintained, or they are not properly they're not used to it, or I'll put it in a way that they are used to their blighted conditions, that they can't see a brighter future, and that responsibility falls upon designers to create a new vision of what could be. Because there's this notion of a tunnel syndrome or ghost walking, where they are not even aware of how dirty or how unkept environments are. So it becomes a mindset. So apart from interventions, you need capacity building, you need to create vision for the community to see beyond their circumstances. So that's part of governance. So, and then we will also look at how that slum environment or informal environments, and it goes back to the way settlements emerged in the past, is that we live essentially outdoors. Most of our activities, our events, our social interaction is outdoor. We are an outdoor people. And so it's housing is not just about shelter. It's beyond shelter. Housing is about dignity. It's about security for the future. It's about access to tenure. That assurance that you have stability. It's about stability. So housing, one of the first lectures we did on housing in the School of Architecture is that housing is beyond shelter. And that's our responsibility as architects, to see and make environments more conducive, just like what the SLAM president mentioned, that it's about how we curate our environments to be sustainable, to be inclusive, and to be workable, to be livable. And there are measurable indices that relates to that. So I would just like to introduce the International Federation of Landscape Architects. I'll share why that's important. It was founded in 1948 in Cambridge, England, and it's the body that represents the global landscape.